What do you want to be when you grow up? This is a question that I dreaded for a really long time. Some of you may have been asked this question already, and there's probably a few of you in here who are going to be asked it a little bit more in the coming years. Some of you may find answering this question a lot easier than I did. Some days, I still don't know the answer to this question. I know what I want to be now, and I don't know if and when that will change, and I think that's perfectly okay. But why does it always feel like there has to be one definitive answer to this question? If you know your answer, then I think that's amazing, but there should be no shame in not knowing the answer or having many different answers. When I was younger and I was asked this question, what I feared more were the follow-up questions. People genuinely trying to help you by asking you questions to help you narrow down your options or providing their suggestion based on their experiences of who you are. Honestly, it made me feel like they were trying to be an expert on my life, my decisions. It made me feel very small, which, as you can see, is hard to make me feel smaller than I already am. It made me feel very nervous, and honestly, it made me feel exceptionally unsure of myself. Inconclusive, the word I feared for so long. Now, it's probably a word that isn't often faced by the people who have a definitive answer to the question I asked before. And I can see a couple of blank faces looking at me. What on earth is she going on about with this word? So let me give you some context. When I was at school, we were asked to sit aptitude tests, and there may be people in this room who were asked to do the same thing. In my case, we sat these tests to help inform which subjects we should take to help us achieve our desired career. Essentially, they'd put you in a room, hand you a booklet, exam-like conditions, already sweating bullets. The booklet contained a list of jobs, of interests with little yes or no bubbles next to them. I'm sure there were some skills with a sliding scale for me to rate where I thought I sat on that scale, but all I remember were the daunting little yes or no bubbles. When I got to the end, I realised I'd pretty much only highlighted one column. Yes. Eventually, the results would come out. We'd either be handed the envelope to open ourselves or you'd be sent to the careers counsellor. My results were always the same. Inconclusive. Usually it was followed up with some sort of statement that go away and think about maybe what you want to actually do in life. But that was the problem. When I sat these tests, I would look at all the answers and I would think to myself, why not? I haven't tried it. I don't know if I don't like it. So why not give it a go? Yes. Which brings me to my next point. No. The word I'm evidently not very good at saying. Not saying no at times has probably been one of my biggest weaknesses in life. As I touched on, I used to think that saying no meant I was missing out on an opportunity that I would never be given again. However, saying yes to absolutely everything is all good and fun until you realise you've been stretched so thin that if you get stretched just the tiniest bit further, you will break. If any of you have made homemade pizzas, you may have made your own pizza base before with pizza dough. You know that as you're stretching it out, there is a very, very fine line between having one piece of dough and having a piece of dough that has a gaping hole in the middle. After you've done it a few times and made the mistake a few times, you start to realise what the dough looks like just before it's about to break. It starts to go really transparent. We feel the same way when we're getting stretched too thin. We start to think, maybe I shouldn't stretch any further. Maybe I should politely decline. Until we break, though, we don't know those signs to recognise. Failure. It is something many of us are exceptionally scared of. We feel that under no circumstances can we fail, because if we fail, the world will view us as a failure. But that's the thing. Failing doesn't make you a failure. Failing allows us to know when we made the wrong choice, when we pushed ourselves too far, and how to better ourselves next time. I was scared of failure, but I also never said no. In semester 2 of my third year of uni, I thought I was invincible and I thought I could do it all. I had a full-time study load and I decided to take not just the normal maths subjects but the advanced maths subjects because I needed the bonus points, and maths, luckily for me, came to me like that, so I wouldn't have to try. I was playing hockey in AFL and I was training or playing almost every day of the week. I thought I could work on top of this, earn some money, save for the future whilst coaching and nannying, and I thought I could spend time with family and friends, probably a little bit too much time with friends. I started to recognise the signs, but it was too little too late and my world came crashing down. I failed a subject, but I want to make this clear. Failing a subject is not the end of the world. It was just the end of the world for me in that moment and made me realise I had to change something. I didn't fail because I tried my best and didn't just quite grasp the concept. I failed because I didn't try hard enough in something that I valued in my life. I just rested on my laurels and thought, it'll be fine, I'll be able to do it. I didn't actually try to learn the content that I needed to learn to pass. If I didn't fail though, I wouldn't have learnt my limits, and I wouldn't have learnt how to say no to certain things the following year and get everything back on track. Through making mistakes, we learn how to better ourselves for next time. Learning. The one constant in life that we can always rely on. Learning is the one thing in life that we can't say no to. It is inherently part of life, whether we realise it or not. The more consciously you do it, the more doors will open in life. And I'm sorry for using the cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. I always loved learning and still do because, yes, as you probably realised, I'm a bit of a nerd and I'm proud of it. But when you don't constrain learning to the classroom, you realise, here we go again, the world is your oyster and nothing is impossible. School is a particularly important part of our learning journey. It provides us with structure and it teaches us a range of different topics and ways of thinking. At times it can be frustrating because we feel like we're getting boxed in and that we don't have any choice in what we are learning. But the exposure to everything that you are learning at school, that is what allows us, when the time is right, to make the decision that is best for us and narrow it down. It may be hard for you guys here today to imagine that learning can exist outside of the classroom, but I promise you, it is something that never stops. Today, I'm a civil engineer by day and an AFLW player by night, and they are both passions of mine. I found a way to embrace that inconclusive nature of my brain that I was always told I had and just go with it instead of living in fear of it like I always had. For you, it may just be one passion. You may not know what that is yet. Either of those options, it's fine, it's okay. But I didn't achieve either of my passions from learning solely in a classroom. In fact, I would say most of the content that I learnt at uni has not been transferable directly to my day-to-day work. But the way of thinking that they taught me, I can use every day in engineering, and I can also use that on the footy field. Whilst there are times I wish I could just focus on one, particularly when one of them is probably limited, you can't play contact sport forever. The reality is most female athletes do not earn the same money as our male counterparts. Being solely a professional athlete is still unfeasible for most females. This is not something that will change overnight, nor is something that should change overnight. Like any job, I'm a strong believer that when you perform above your pay grade, eventually pay rises will follow. This concept, it applies to so many other professions. It doesn't just exist in sport. Many industries will turn you away when you apply for a job. Most commonly, you don't have enough experience. You're left standing there, but how do I get this experience? No one will take a chance on me. No one will give me that first job. Usually, you have to go and volunteer hours. Many university degrees these days even have the volunteering hours within their degree structure. You have to do placements. You've probably seen placement teachers at your school. They aren't getting paid to do this, but they still have bills to pay. They have to go and find another paid job that can support them whilst they are getting these volunteer hours so that eventually someone will take a chance on them. Juggling my two careers has never been easy, and it never gets any easier. For me, I'm incredibly lucky though that engineering isn't just a job that's paying the bills whilst I follow another passion. I would be working as an engineer whether I would be playing professional sport or not. There will be a day though where women are able to be full-time athletes. But as I've already said, we're not quite there yet. It's not always possible to balance 2 careers in this way, but for now, whilst it is a possibility, I'm embracing it and learning every day. There are times where I haven't been hired for engineering positions because they think I'm going to leave. They think I'll leave, go play sport, and they'll have to refill the position. There's been times where I've been told engineering is getting in the way of me performing at the elite level that I'm required to in my sport. But I keep soldiering on and I keep finding the balance. You have those open conversations with both parties and you find a solution that works. Because if that's what you want to do, you can make it work. On top of that, I learn how to take the strengths from one and apply it to the other. Transferable skills are not necessarily content-based. You do not need to be the smartest person in the room from a book smart perspective to be the most effective person at using your knowledge. I challenge you to consider how you define the word smart. It is about recognizing a situation and realizing how you can transfer your way of thinking to solve a problem or help enhance another area of your life. For me, whilst engineering is very numbers-based, I cannot exactly walk into the middle of a footy field and start designing a stormwater network. Doesn't really transfer. But the methodical approach and the problem-solving nature that I've learned to develop helps me break down a skill. Break down a skill so that I can learn it and get better at it. Not only that, I can find ways to break down a skill in maybe a way that someone else understands that doesn't make quite as much sense to me. I can help to use that to teach other people. Yes, there are times where some of the things I've learnt in my work or in my degree, I can apply, figure out why the ball is moving a certain way by using maths or physics. Sometimes my problem solving and my logical thinking will get me into trouble and I'll overthink a solution. And that's where I hope that my natural sporting instincts will kick in. You don't have time to be crunching numbers in the middle of a footy field when you have a split second to make a decision on what to do next. But instincts are enhanced by learning and practice over and over until they become habit. On top of this, my work ethic to make those skills habit so that I can rely on my instincts, and my work ethic to make myself as strong and as fit as possible so that I can be the best version of myself on the footy field, can also be transferred into my day-to-day work. Not the being strongest and fittest part, that's not really applicable to engineering, but it's the work ethic. That work ethic helps me meet my deadlines at work, and sometimes my deadlines are a little bit harder than the rest because I have to be at training the next hour. Discipline and time management, they'll be your best friends in chasing any sort of dream. But I say all of these things, one of the most important things is learning who to surround yourself with. Surround yourself with family, friends, and colleagues that have a genuine interest in supporting you. But in return, they need to be people that you have a genuine interest in supporting, because otherwise it's a one-way relationship. It's going to get very tiring, and at times you may be left with no one to support you. But hey, guess what? The only way we understand if we are surrounding ourselves with people who have a genuine interest in us is to learn something about one another. Find out what their favourite music is, their favourite movie, their favourite drink. Find out what makes them tick. That's how we learn. Sometimes you're going to get it wrong and you will surround yourself with the wrong people, but it's how we move on from that. As time goes by, you get more experience, you learn how to identify the people that are going to be most helpful to you, and you recognise it earlier. Overall, I know I sound like a bit of a broken record by now, but it all comes down to learning. Life is just one giant learning curve. If we look at life with this lens and take each day as a new opportunity to learn, then we will grow as individuals. We will keep finding solutions to our problems and eventually figure out what we want to be in that moment, because that's all we can ask of ourselves. Do not be deterred by failure, because yes, it is going to happen. Learn from your mistakes and try again. Learn when to say no so that you don't have to have yourself burning out, but try to say yes to every learning opportunity. Do not fear the inconclusive result should you receive one. See it as an opportunity to go out and learn a little bit more about yourself, because that is how we discover what we want to be. And remember, when someone asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? It is okay to say, I don't know. But also remember, maybe the question we should actually be asking ourselves is, what would you like to learn next in life? And just see where that takes you.